Good afternoon, everyone. I am about to feed the penguins inside the June Keys penguin habitat. So if that's something that you want to see, come on over to the exhibit. I will be out in just a few minutes. We're going to give our birds two types of fish, restaurant quality herring and capelin. It's a pretty cool time right now because they are getting ready for their yearly molt, so they are pretty hungry. Once again, I am going to feed the penguins inside our June Keys penguin habitat. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the second of 3 feeds for our Magellanic penguins today. It's kind of like a snack feed for them. But if you take a look, 2 of our birds are going through their yearly molt. Penguins have a unique adaptation that allows them to replace their feathers once a year. But they actually prepare for it ahead of time. So the bird that's right here at the bucket, his name is Gats. He is going through that molt, and also Admiral Fancy Pants right here. Both of the birds that look a little funny. Penguins have 75 feathers per square inch. That's some pretty thick, dense feathers. And that structure itself is what keeps them dry in the water. But as a result of that, they have to molt their feathers once a year to keep their feathers in tip-top shape. So they also have something called a uropygial gland that helps condition their feathers. It's an oil-based gland. The bird that I am attempting to feed is our oldest bird. Her name is Whatever. She is 17 years old. These guys typically live to be about 10 to 15 in their natural habitat, and about anywhere from about 20 to 35 in a protected environment. So when penguins go through a catastrophic molt, it takes about 5 weeks to replace all of those feathers, but it takes about a month or two to actually bulk up and get ready for the molt. So a lot of our birds are eating a lot more than they typically would, almost double that amount in food. And that helps them to be able to regrow their feathers and also fast while they're on land because they aren't watertight and their skin can get wet. Here at the aquarium it's summer, so it's not that big of a deal for these guys. They can go in the water if they get hot. We also have misters on for them. But in their natural habitat, they do fast for about 5 weeks. All right, we got whatever to eat. 6 capelin. Every penguin does have their own little different personality. Some are a little bit more bold. Some will run right up to the bucket. Some will steal out of the other's mouth. Like Lily, who I'm feeding up on this ledge here right now. And some kind of wait for the crowd to settle before they take an opportunity to eat. This is Heidi. She's the first chick that hatched here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. We've had 13 chicks hatch here. And that was Ludwig. That was the only bird that hasn't had an opportunity to eat yet. So now all 23 birds have had at least one fish. So these are all Magellanic penguins. They're members of the banded penguin family, along with the African Humboldt and Galapagos penguin. Some of them are starting to go through their catastrophic molt. They look about 3 to 4 times the size that they usually are. One of them right here, sorry buddy, his name is Gats. And if you take a look at his back, those feathers are starting to separate. So something that these guys will let me do is alloprene them. So the area that I'm kind of scratching is an area they can't reach on their own. So it's pretty helpful to have a friend reach that for you. In this case, he's taking an opportunity to preen himself instead. But you can see those feathers are coming off. So when you're a penguin, you go through a catastrophic molt because your feather structure is pretty unique in the sense that it's keeping your skin dry. There are structures in the feathers that basically overlap and keep the skin on the penguins dry while they're in the pretty cold water. But throughout the year, their feathers become worn, and they've adapted to going through something called a catastrophic molt. So they stay on land for about 5 weeks fasting, which means they're going to bulk up ahead of time, and that's kind of where we're at for about half of our colony right now. The bird I just gave a fish to, her name is Dee. She's already gone through her yearly molt. So out of the 23 birds, 20 of them still have to molt, but 3 completed it. They looked a little bit different prior to molt. They were our subadults or juveniles that hatched in 2018. So they didn't have these 2 black bands that they have now, nor that mask. They were all gray and kind of subdued compared to the rest of the colony. So they went through their molt. They've completed it. They're feeling pretty great. But now the adults that range in ages from about 3 to 17 have to go through molt. They typically go through molt from youngest to oldest, but we're having an interesting experience where kind of our oldest birds molting along with our 5-year-old birds, with our 2-year-old birds. So we're a little out of whack in terms of the way it's happening, but everyone has to go through a molt because that's the way that they keep their feathers In the best quality, when you're a Magellanic penguin, you can migrate about 1,000 to 3,000 miles a year. You also have something called a uropygial gland, and that's keeping your feathers conditioned, but it doesn't keep them watertight. That feather structure itself is what does that. And they have about 75 feathers per square inch, which is a lot of feathers to have to replace all in one shot. Not all birds go through this catastrophic molt. It's pretty unique to penguins. Our puffins go through it as well. And when they go through it, they actually lose their flight feathers, and they would go out to sea. So that's something that we're not quite sure about where they actually go, but we know they go out to sea, and they don't have to really fly. But like our lorikeets, our parrots, those guys, they aren't able to go through that catastrophic molt because they wouldn't be able to fly away from predators. Penguins kind of all stick together in the sense that they all go through it at once. This is Paddles here. Paddles is definitely bulking up for molt. One of the first things you notice is that their diet increases, but then their flippers start to get pretty swollen. And the reason for that is that all of those feathers have a blood vessel attached, and the old feather pops out and the new one takes its place. This here is Floyd. Floyd has actually had 7 out of the 13 chicks here at the aquarium with Roxy. These guys do mate for life, so it's pretty sweet to watch the pairs. Roxy's over here in between the black gray rocks, hanging out. All of the paired birds have their own burrows. Those are the 9 holes that you see behind me. Those holes lead to kennels. They can rest in there, they can raise their kids in there, they can molt in there if they want to. Come here, Andy. So if you're just joining us, we're having a casual lunch here for our Magellanic penguins. Everyone's had an opportunity to eat. Since our food is frozen and then thawed out, we do give our guys vitamins. Basically gets all those supplements or nutrients that they need. Petals is coming back for more food. So anything that is removed in that freezing process, and that's just to make sure we get rid of any bacteria or parasites. So we sneak a vitamin in the gill opening of the fish. The penguins, for the most part, do not notice unless I don't do the best job of stuffing the fish. But if they're hungry enough, they tend not to notice. This is Cleo. So Cleo is one of those juvenile penguins that has already molted. She was one of our chicks from 2018. So she is only a year old. She's eating some capelin right now. This is Patsy. Patsy's one of our more timid birds. She also really likes to drop her fish on the ground. And that right there is Roxy. Roxy is one of our Brazilian rescue birds. 4 of our birds were found stranded and deemed unreleasable. She does have a little bit of a limp. She's not in pain, but because she was stranded, she has a condition called bumblefoot. And we've had some surgeries on her foot And so we know she has a chronic limp, but we know she isn't in pain because we did a 3D rendering or imaging of her foot. We found that she had a bone spur and we were able to remove that. The cause of the bone spur is from that bumblefoot issue. It's kind of like a chronic infection for these guys. Sometimes you can mitigate that. So her infection is not active, but that's why she has a little bit of that chronic limp. We give our birds yearly physicals, so if you've gone downstairs, you might have seen our Molina Animal Care Center. If we're doing anything with our animals, we let you guys take a look, whether it's just a checkup or a surgery. Penguins get physicals once a year, but if we think anything's going on, we can take a blood sample or do radiographs or x-rays. For the most part, these guys are rather healthy. A lot of what we do for these guys is preventative health care. But the 4 birds that were rescued from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, had enough chronic issues to be deemed unreleasable, meaning they couldn't go back to their natural habitat. And they actually started off the colony here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. Some of them came from other facilities, and 13 of them actually hatched here at the aquarium. All right, I think everyone has gotten a fair chance to eat. So if you want to come back around 3:45 or 4, I will be giving these guys dinner. They get a little bit more hungry for that. This is a snack feed that kind of gives everyone an opportunity to eat again. And they get fed 3 times a day. I do want to thank you guys for supporting the Aquarium of the Pacific. We are a nonprofit institution, so your paid admission is going right back to these animals, whether it's to help feed them or give them the care that they need. So thank you guys so much, and enjoy the rest of your day here at the aquarium.